Min-jun was the most dangerous man in Seoul. Every woman in his club fell willingly into his grasp. Except her. She poured his whiskey like he was just another patron, met his deadly stare without a flicker, and awakened an obsession he'd never known. For the first time, the ruthless mafia boss couldn't take what he wanted. What she didn't realize? Walking away wasn't an option he gave anyone, and he'd already decided she was his. Welcome to K-fairytales stories, besties. Please like, share, and subscribe. The bass throbbed through eclipse like a living heartbeat. Red velvet booths lined the walls where Seoul's elite mingled with shadows that had names but no faces. Crystal chandeliers cast fractured light across bodies, moving to music that cost more to license than most people earned in a year. This wasn't just a club, it was territory, power made tangible, and every inch of it belonged to Kang Min-jun. He sat in the VIP section on the third floor, elevated above the masses like a king surveying his kingdom. Black suit tailored to perfection, dark hair swept back, eyes that could freeze blood. 28 years old, and he'd already built an empire that made politicians sweat and rival syndicates think twice. He didn't just own Eclipse. He owned half of Gangnam's nightlife, several import businesses that moved more than electronics, and enough dirt on powerful men to topple governments. Women gravitated toward him like moths to flame. They always had. Beautiful women with designer dresses and calculated smiles. They'd touch his arm, laugh at things that weren't funny, angle their bodies just right. He'd take what he wanted when he wanted it and forget their names by morning. Power was an aphrodisiac, fear even more so. He was bored of both. That's when he saw her. She moved behind the main bar with efficient grace, pouring drinks with steady hands. Dark skin that gleamed under the club's lighting. Natural curls pulled back from a face that didn't need the makeup other women hid behind. Curves that the black Eclipse uniform couldn't conceal. But it wasn't her body that caught his attention. It was the way she didn't look at him. Everyone looked at Min-jun. Even when they pretended not to, they watched from the corner of their eyes, waited to see if he'd notice them, hoped or feared he would. But this woman, this bartender, she mixed drinks and served customers like he didn't exist, like his presence didn't matter, like he was just another man in an expensive suit. Something shifted in his chest, something he didn't recognize and didn't like. Min-jun gestured to his second in command. Tae-hyung appeared beside him within seconds. Tall, loyal, deadly when necessary. He'd been with Min-jun since they were teenagers, clawing their way out of nothing. The bartender. Min-jun kept his voice low. Who is she? Tae-hyung followed his gaze. New hire. Started 3 weeks ago. Name's Serena. Foreign worker visa. From London originally, but her mother's Korean. She's clean. Background check showed nothing interesting. Everything about her is interesting, Min-jun thought, but didn't say. Bring her up here. I want to meet her. Boss, I don't think that's... Now, Tae-hyung hesitated, reading something in Min-jun's tone that made him tread carefully. He nodded once and disappeared down the stairs. Min-jun watched her. Serena. The name suited her somehow. She was laughing at something a customer said, but the laugh didn't reach her eyes. Professional smile. Polite distance. She poured a martini without looking, muscle memory guiding her hands. When she set it down, her movements had a finality that discouraged lingering conversation. She's been hurt, Min-jun realized. Someone taught her to keep walls up. The thought made his jaw tighten for reasons he couldn't name. Tae-hyung approached the bar and spoke to her. Min-jun couldn't hear the words over the music, but he saw her body language shift, shoulders squaring, chin lifting slightly. Then she looked up. Their eyes met across the crowded club. Min-jun felt it like a physical impact. She wasn't awed, wasn't intimidated, wasn't trying to impress him or seduce him with a practiced smile. She just looked at him with steady eyes that held neither fear nor interest. Then she looked away, back to her work, like he was nothing. No one dismissed Kang Min-jun, no one. He watched her shake her head at Tae-hyung, saw her gesture to the line of customers waiting for drinks. Tae-hyung said something else, more insistent. She responded with what looked like a polite but firm refusal. Then she turned her back and started making the next order. Tae-hyung returned, looking uncomfortable. She says she's working. Can't leave the bar during peak hours. Says if you want a drink, she's happy to send someone up with your order. Min-jun's fingers tightened around his whiskey glass. The audacity. The sheer audacity. He should have been angry, should have made an example, should have had her fired on the spot. Instead, he felt something he hadn't experienced in years. Challenge. Leave it. Boss? I said leave it. Minjun's eyes never left her. I'll handle this myself. For the rest of the night, Minjun watched. He observed how she moved through her shift with practiced efficiency, how she deflected drunk customers with a smile that had ice underneath, how she poured drinks with both hands working in tandem, never wasting emotion, how other bartenders deferred to her even though she was new, asking questions, following her lead during rush moments. She's good at what she does, he noted. Confident, competent, not trying to use her looks to earn tips like some of the others, just working, existing in his space, without acknowledging his power over it. It infuriated him. It fascinated him. Around 2 in the morning, the crowd began thinning. Minjun descended from the VIP section for the first time that night. He rarely came down to the main floor. His presence usually meant someone was about to have a very bad evening. Conversations quieted as he passed. People moved out of his way without being asked. He approached the bar and took a seat on one of the high stools. The bartender closest to him, a young woman named Ji Woo, nearly dropped the bottle she was holding. Mr. Kang. She bowed quickly. What can I get for you? Should I call the VIP server? No. Minjun's gaze fixed on Serena at the far end of the bar. She'll make it. Ji Woo's eyes widened. She followed his line of sight and paled. I'll tell her. She scurried down to Serena and whispered urgently. Minjun saw Serena's posture stiffen, saw her take a slow breath before turning toward him. She wiped her hands on a towel, then walked down the bar to where he sat. Up close, she was even more striking. High cheekbones, full lips, eyes that held depths he wanted to excavate. A small scar through her left eyebrow that made him wonder about its story. What can I get you? Her voice was smooth, professional, lightly accented with British inflection. Whiskey. Neat. The Yamazaki 25. She nodded once and turned to reach for the top shelf. Minjun watched the line of her neck, the curve of her waist, watched her pour with steady hands that showed no tremor despite knowing who he was. She set the glass down in front of him with a soft click. Anything else? Your name, Serena. She met his eyes directly. Is there anything else I can get you, Mr. Kang? The formal distance in her tone made something dark stir in his chest. Everyone else called him boss or sir with deference that bordered on fear. She said his name like he was just another customer, like she wasn't at all impressed. You're new. 3 weeks. You turned down my invitation earlier. I was working. She gestured to the bar. Still am, actually. It's busy tonight. Not too busy for conversation. I'm paid to make drinks, not conversation. But her tone wasn't rude. Just matter of fact. If you need company, I can call one of the floor hostesses. I don't want a hostess. Min Jun took a slow sip of whiskey, never breaking eye contact. I want to know why you're the only woman in this building who doesn't look at me like I'm worth looking at. Something flickered in her expression. Maybe I'm not looking for anything. Everyone's looking for something. Then maybe I already found it. She started to turn away. Min Jun's hand shot out, catching her wrist. Not aggressive, just firm enough to stop her. The contact sent electricity up his arm. He felt her pulse jump under his fingers. Don't, her voice dropped low. I don't like being touched. He released her immediately, but held her gaze. Noted how she rubbed her wrist absently. Noted the micro-expression of old fear that crossed her face before the professional mask returned. Someone had grabbed her before. Someone had taught her to flinch. Who hurt you? The question came out before he could stop it. Serena's eyes widened slightly. Then her walls slammed back into place. That's not your business. She stepped back. Your drink is paid for. Enjoy your evening, Mr. Kang. This time when she walked away, he let her go. But his eyes followed her until she disappeared into the back room at shift change. He sat there long after his whiskey was gone, turning the empty glass between his fingers. Tae-young appeared at his elbow. What are you doing? Thinking. About the bartender? Min-jun stood slowly. Find out everything about Serena, where she lives, where she worked before, why she's in Seoul. Everything. Boss, she's not just anything. Minjun's voice carried an edge that made Tae-young straighten. I want a full report by tomorrow. The following evening, Minjun sat in his penthouse apartment in Cheongdam-dong with Serena's life spread across his coffee table. Tae-young had been thorough. Serena John, 26 years old, born in London to a Nigerian father and Korean mother. Degree in literature from King's College. Worked as a bartender in London for 4 years at high-end establishments. Moved to Seoul 6 months ago after her mother's death. No criminal record, no debts, no red flags except one. Minjun picked up the police report from 18 months ago. London Metropolitan Police. Domestic disturbance call to her apartment. Boyfriend arrested for assault. Restraining order filed. Case dropped when she refused to testify. There it is, he thought. The reason she flinches, the reason she keeps walls up, the reason she looked at him like his power meant nothing, because she'd seen what powerful men could do behind closed doors. Something protective and possessive coiled in his chest. He didn't examine it too closely, didn't want to acknowledge what it meant that some man putting hands on her made Minjun want to find him and break every bone in his body. He made a call. His voice was cold. I need information on a Marcus Williams in London, arrested 18 months ago for domestic assault. I want to know where he is now. 3 days passed. Minjun went to Eclipse every night, sat at the bar, ordered whiskey, watched her work. He didn't try to talk to her again, just observed, studied the way she moved, the way she interacted with customers, the way her smile never quite reached her eyes. Other women tried to get his attention, beautiful women in expensive dresses who positioned themselves in his line of sight. He ignored them all. His focus had narrowed to one person who wanted nothing to do with him. On the 4th night, she finally broke. Serena set down his whiskey harder than necessary. Are you going to sit here every night? Maybe. Why? Minjun took a slow sip. Maybe I like the whiskey. We have VIP service. You don't need to sit at the bar. But I want to. Her jaw tightened. Mr. Kang, I don't know what you think is going to happen here, but I think you're going to tell me your story. He cut her off gently. I think you're going to explain why someone who's clearly educated and talented is working nights at a bar in a foreign country. I think you're going to tell me who taught you to look at powerful men like they're threats instead of opportunities. Serena's eyes flashed. You don't know anything about me. I know you're running from something. I know you work 6 nights a week and spend your days off alone in a studio apartment in Hongdae. I know you haven't made any friends since arriving in Seoul. I know you send money back to London every month to an account belonging to your younger sister. And I know that Marcus Williams is currently in prison for violating the restraining order you filed against him. The color drained from her face. You investigated me? I wanted to understand you. You had no right. Her hands were shaking now. Anger or fear or both. You had no right to invade my privacy like that. Who do you think you are? Someone who's interested. Minjun's voice remained calm. Someone who noticed that you're the only woman in this building who doesn't see me as an opportunity. Someone who wants to know why. Because I'm not interested in dangerous men with too much power and not enough conscience. She leaned forward, voice dropping to a harsh whisper. I've been down that road before. It ends with broken ribs and apologies that mean nothing. So thank you for your attention, Mr. Kang. But I'm not interested in being your new project or conquest, or whatever game you're playing. She turned to walk away again. This time Minjun stood, his presence commanding enough that conversations around them died. Everyone was watching now, watching to see what Seoul's most dangerous man would do when a woman rejected him publicly. I'm not him. Minjun's voice carried across the suddenly quiet bar. Whatever he did to you, whatever he took from you, I'm not him. Serena stopped but didn't turn around. You're worse. At least with Marcus, I knew what I was getting. You're the kind of man who makes women disappear when they become inconvenient. Is that what you think? That's what I know. She kept walking, disappearing into the back. The bar erupted into whispered conversation. Minjun stood there feeling something he rarely experienced. Helplessness. For all his power, for all his control over this city, he couldn't make her see him as anything but a threat. Tae-hyung appeared at his side. Boss! Everyone's watching. This doesn't look good. I don't care how it looks. She embarrassed you in your own club. She told me the truth. Minjun finally moved, heading toward the exit. That's worth more than 100 women telling me what I want to hear. Outside in the cold Seoul night, Minjun stood on the street and made a decision that would change everything. He pulled out his phone and made another call, the one he'd been holding on to for 3 days. "It's done," the voice on the other end confirmed. "Marcus Williams won't be bothering anyone else. The other inmates made sure of it." Minjun felt no satisfaction, no triumph, just a hollow certainty that Serena would never know he'd protected her from an ocean away, that she'd never trust him enough to let him protect her up close. But he'd keep trying anyway. Because for the first time in his ruthless life, Kang Min-jun had found something he wanted that he couldn't simply take. And that made her more valuable than everything else he owned combined. The next week brought an unexpected development. Min-jun arrived at Eclipse to find Serena's station covered by another bartender. His eyes scanned the floor, searching. "Where is she?" he asked Ji-woo. "Serena?" She called in sick. "First time she's missed a shift." Something tightened in his chest. "Where does she live?" Ji-woo hesitated. "Mr. Kang, I don't think I should. Address." Now, 20 minutes later, Min-jun stood outside a small building in Hongdae. Student housing mostly. Cheap rent, thin walls. The kind of place people stayed when they were starting over with nothing. He climbed to the 3rd floor and knocked on apartment 302. No answer. He knocked again. "Serena, I know you're in there. Go away." Her voice came through the door, rough and tired. "Open the door." "No, I'm not leaving until you do." Silence. Then the sound of locks disengaging. The door opened a crack, chains still attached. Serena peered through the gap. Her eyes were red-rimmed, face makeup free, wearing an oversized sweater that swallowed her frame. "What do you want?" "To check on you." "I'm fine." She started to close the door. Minjun's hand caught it. "You don't look fine. That's not your concern. Everything about you has become my concern." The words came out more intense than he intended. "Let me in." Why would I do that? "Because I'm asking." Not ordering. Asking. Minjun's voice softened. "Please, Serena, let me in." She studied him through the gap for a long moment. Then, slowly, she unchained the door and opened it wider. Minjun entered a space barely large enough for a bed, small kitchenette, and bathroom. But it was clean, organized, a few books stacked on a makeshift shelf, a framed photo of a smiling woman he recognized as her mother from the files. "Your bodyguards are going to make my neighbors nervous," Serena said, closing the door. "I came alone." Her eyes widened slightly. "That was stupid. This isn't a safe neighborhood for someone like you. I can handle myself." He moved further into the apartment, taking in details. A mug of tea gone cold on the counter, tissues scattered across the bed, an open book face down. "You've been crying. It's the anniversary." She wrapped her arms around herself. "My mom died a year ago today. I thought I could work through it, but..." She trailed off, turning away. "You should go. I don't need you seeing me like this." "Like what? Human? Like weak?" Minjun moved closer slowly, giving her time to retreat if she wanted. She didn't. Grief isn't weakness. It's love with nowhere to go. She looked up at him, surprised. "That's almost poetic for a gangster." "I read." The corner of his mouth lifted slightly. Sometimes even dangerous men have depths. Despite everything, she almost smiled. Almost. Then her face crumpled and fresh tears spilled over. "I can't do this. I can't fall apart in front of you. I'm here." Minjun caught her as her knees buckled, lowered them both to the floor, letting her collapse against his chest. "I'm here, and you're allowed to fall apart. I've got you." She fought it for exactly 3 seconds. Then she sobbed like something inside her broke completely. Sobbed for her mother, for her stolen safety, for every hard thing she'd survived alone. And Minjun held her through all of it, one hand in her hair, the other around her waist, keeping her anchored while she shattered. When the storm finally passed, Serena pulled back, wiping her face with shaking hands. "I'm sorry. I don't know why, I just don't apologize." Minjun's thumb brushed away a tear she'd missed. "Not for feeling. Not ever." She looked at him with swollen eyes. "Why are you being kind to me?" "Because you deserve kindness. You don't even know me." "I know enough." He tucked a curl behind her ear, the gesture so gentle it made her breath catch. I know you're stronger than you think. I know you've survived things that would have broken other people. I know you're here alone trying to build a new life in a country that doesn't always welcome people who look like you. And I know that despite everything, you still show up every day and do the work." Serena's voice was barely a whisper. "You investigated all of that." "I did." Minjun didn't apologize for it. "But I'm also seeing it now. Seeing you. Not the walls you put up or the persona you show at work. Just you." Something shifted in the air between them. Serena should have pulled away, should have remembered who he was, what he did, why men like him were dangerous. But his arms felt safe in a way nothing had felt safe in years. His heartbeat under her ear was steady, reliable. His presence filled the empty apartment with something that felt dangerously like home. "I should hate you," she said softly. "You're everything I swore I'd avoid, but you don't. I don't know what I feel." Her hand rested against his chest, feeling the expensive fabric of his shirt. "This is insane. You're a crime lord. I'm a bartender. We exist in completely different worlds, so we'll build a new one." His fingers traced patterns on her back. "One where you don't have to be afraid. Where you don't have to work yourself to exhaustion in a bar just to send money to your sister. Where you can breathe. That's not realistic. Let me worry about what's realistic." Minjun tilted her chin up, forcing her to meet his eyes. "Let me take care of you. I don't need—" "Everyone needs someone, Serena. Even you. Especially you." His gaze dropped to her lips. "Tell me to leave. Tell me you don't feel this thing between us and I'll walk away. I'll never bother you again." She should have said it, should have protected herself. Instead, she breathed, "I can't." "Can't what?" "Can't tell you to leave." Her voice broke. "Can't stop feeling like maybe you see something in me that I forgot existed. Can't stop wanting you to stay even though every logical part of my brain is screaming that this is dangerous. Life is dangerous." Minjun leaned closer until their foreheads touched. "At least this way, you're not facing it alone." When he kissed her, it wasn't demanding or aggressive. It was a question asked with his mouth against hers. A gentle exploration that gave her time to pull away. She didn't. Instead, she kissed him back with everything she'd been holding inside. All the loneliness, all the fear, all the desperate need to feel something other than numb. The kiss deepened slowly. His hand cupped her face like she was precious. Her fingers tangled in his hair. They shifted until she was in his lap, wrapped around him, and it felt right in a way that terrified her. When they finally broke apart, both breathing hard, Minjun pressed his lips to her forehead. "I'm not him. I need you to believe that. I want to. God, I want to." But Serena's eyes filled with fresh tears. "What if this is just another mistake? What if you hurt me worse than he did? Then you have permission to destroy me." Minjun's voice was absolutely serious. "If I ever lift a hand to you in anger, if I ever make you feel small or afraid or worthless, you can take everything from me. My empire, my reputation, my life. I'll give you the weapons myself. That's a dangerous promise. I'm a dangerous man, but never to you. Never to you, Serena." His arms tightened around her. "Let me prove it." She wanted to say yes, wanted to let herself fall into the protection he offered, but fear held her frozen. "I need time. Take all the time you need. I'll wait." Minjun stood slowly, settling her on the small couch. "I'll have food delivered. You need to eat something. You don't have to. I want to." He pulled out his phone. "What do you like?" Despite everything, she felt a small smile tug at her lips. "Comfort food. Nigerian if you can find it. Consider it done." He made a quick call in Korean, too rapid for her to follow. Then he grabbed a throw blanket and draped it over her legs. "Rest. I'll stay until the food arrives. You don't have to babysit me." "I'm not." His eyes held hers. "I'm exactly where I want to be." The food arrived within the hour. Jollof rice, fried plantains, pepper soup that made her apartment smell like her mother's kitchen. Serena stared at the containers in disbelief. "How did you—" "I know people." Minjun sat beside her, close but not touching. "Eat." She did. And for the first time in a year, eating didn't feel like just going through the motions. She ate until she was full, until the emptiness inside felt less consuming. Minjun watched her the entire time with an intensity that should have been uncomfortable but somehow wasn't. "Thank you," she said quietly when she finished. "You don't need to thank me for basic kindness. In my experience, kindness from men like you always comes with strings attached." "What strings do you think I'm attaching?" Serena met his eyes. "I don't know yet. That's what scares me." Minjun stood, gathering the empty containers. "The only thing I want from you is a chance to prove I'm not who you think I am, a chance to show you what it feels like to be cherished instead of controlled. And if I can't give you that chance, then I'll still make sure you're safe, still make sure you have what you need. I don't help you to get something in return, Serena. I help you because the thought of you struggling alone makes something in my chest hurt in ways I don't have words for." The rawness in his voice made her eyes burn again. "You barely know me. I know enough." He moved to the door, then paused. "I'm going to leave now because if I stay longer, I'm going to kiss you again. And I want the next time to be because you chose it, not because you're vulnerable and grieving. Minjun, think about it. Think about us. Take your time, but know that I'm not going anywhere." He pulled something from his pocket and set it on the counter. "My private number. If you need anything, day or night, you call me. Anything, Serena. I mean it." Then he was gone, leaving her alone in an apartment that suddenly felt too empty. She picked up the card he'd left. Heavy stock, embossed lettering, a number and nothing else. She should have thrown it away. Instead, she tucked it into her phone case like a talisman. A week passed. Serena returned to work, but Minjun didn't come to the bar. She told herself she was relieved, told herself his absence was a good thing, proof that he'd moved on to easier conquests. Told herself the disappointment she felt was just ego. She was lying to herself, and she knew it. On the 8th night, a man approached the bar. Well-dressed, handsome, Korean. He smiled at her warmly and ordered in English. "You're new," he said. "I haven't seen you before. Been here a few months." Serena poured his drink professionally. "I'm Jae-sung. I work in finance nearby. You?" "Serena. Pretty name for a pretty woman." He leaned against the bar. "You're not from here originally, are you?" "London. Long way from home. What brought you to Seoul?" "Fresh start." She set down his drink, hoping he'd take the hint and move along. He didn't. Must have been running from something. Pretty women don't travel halfway around the world alone unless they're escaping. The assessment in his tone made her skin crawl. "That's really not your business. Just making conversation." Jae-sung's smile widened. "How about after your shift you let me take you to dinner, show you the parts of Seoul tourists don't see? I'm not interested, but thank you. Come on, don't be like that." He reached across the bar and caught her wrist. "I'm a nice guy. I could show you a good time." Serena tried to pull away. His grip tightened. "Let go. Just give me your number." The man's words cut off as someone's hand clamped down on his shoulder. Minjun appeared like a shadow made solid, his presence so menacing that nearby conversations died mid-sentence. She said, "Let go." Minjun's voice was soft, deadly. "So let go before I break every bone in your hand." Jae-sung released Serena immediately, stumbling backward. "Mr. Kang, I didn't know." "You didn't know she was off limits." Minjun stepped forward. "You didn't know that putting your hands on someone who said no makes you exactly the kind of trash I clean off my streets?" "I'm sorry. I wasn't." "Get out." Minjun didn't raise his voice. Didn't need to. The command carried absolute authority. "Get out of my club, and if I ever see you near her again, you'll disappear so completely your own mother won't find the pieces." Jae-sung fled. The entire bar watched in stunned silence as Minjun turned to Serena. His expression softened immediately, the monster vanishing to reveal the man underneath. "Are you okay?" Serena's heart was racing. For entirely different reasons than fear. "I had it handled." "I know you did. But you shouldn't have to handle it alone." Minjun's eyes scanned her wrist where Jae-sung had grabbed her. "Did he hurt you?" "No. Just bruised my pride." She tried to sound casual, but her voice shook. "Thank you for the intervention, but I don't need you to fight my battles." "I know." His hand hovered near hers on the bar, not touching but close. "I did it anyway because the thought of anyone putting hands on you makes me want to burn the world down." The intensity in his voice made her breath catch. "You can't threaten everyone who looks at me wrong. Watch me." There was no humor in his tone, just flat certainty. You're under my protection now, whether you've accepted it or not. Anyone who touches you answers to me. That's insane. That's non-negotiable. Minjun leaned forward. I told you I'd prove I'm different. That starts with making sure you never have to handle anything alone again. Around them, the bar was still quiet. Everyone watching. Everyone would talk about this tomorrow. About how Seoul's most dangerous man had defended a foreign bartender. About what it meant that he'd threatened violence over her. You're making a scene, Serena whispered. Good. Let everyone know you're mine to protect. His eyes challenged her to argue. She should have. Should have been angry at his possessiveness, his presumption. Instead, something warm unfurled in her chest, something that felt dangerously like hope. Your shift ends in an hour. I'll wait. Minjun straightened but didn't leave. I'm taking you home. I can get myself home. I know. I'm doing it anyway. Not a suggestion, Serena. Not tonight. She wanted to argue. But the truth was, her hands were still shaking from the encounter, and having Minjun close made her feel safer than she'd felt in years. Okay. His expression gentled. Okay. He moved to a booth where he could see the entire bar, where he could watch her, where anyone who thought about approaching her would see Seoul's most dangerous man standing guard. The last hour of her shift passed in record time. Customers gave her space. No one hit on her. No one grabbed at her. Minjun's presence acted like a force field, protecting her from the usual harassment that came with bartending. When she finished, he was there immediately with her coat. His car waited outside. Black, expensive, windows tinted. The driver opened the door without being asked. This is too much, Serena said as they pulled into traffic. It's not enough. Minjun's voice was quiet. Not nearly enough for what you deserve. You don't know what I deserve. I'm learning. He turned to look at her in the dim interior. Every day I learn something new. Today I learned that seeing someone touch you without permission makes me violent in ways that concern even me. That's not healthy. Probably not. But it's honest. His hand moved to rest beside hers on the seat, not touching but close enough that she could feel his warmth. I'm not going to pretend to be something I'm not, Serena. I'm possessive. I'm controlling. When something is mine, I protect it with everything I have. The question is whether you can live with that. I don't know. She looked out the window. I don't know if I'm ready for whatever this is. Then we'll go slow. As slow as you need. But I'm not disappearing. I'm not giving up. And I'm not letting anyone hurt you ever again. The car pulled up outside her building. Minjun walked her to her door, his presence solid and reassuring in the dim hallway. Thank you, Serena said at her threshold. For tonight. For everything. Serena. Before he could finish, she kissed him. Sudden and impulsive and everything she'd been trying not to feel. Minjun froze for half a second, then his arms came around her, pulling her closer. The kiss was different from the first. Deeper, more certain, like sealing a promise neither of them had words for. When they broke apart, both breathing hard, Serena pressed her forehead to his chest. I'm terrified, I know, but I think I want to try. Want to see if this could be real. Minjun's arms tightened around her. It's already real. The question is whether you're brave enough to let it be. She looked up at him, seeing past the dangerous exterior to the man who'd held her while she cried, who'd brought her comfort food, who'd defended her without being asked, who'd waited patiently while she figured out her feelings. Ask me again, she whispered. Ask me properly. Let me take care of you. Minjun cupped her face in both hands. Let me show you what it's like to be cherished. Let me prove that not all powerful men are monsters. Give me a chance, Serena. Just one chance. Her answer was another kiss. Longer this time. Fuller. When his hands slid to her waist, she didn't flinch. When he pulled her closer, she went willingly. When he lifted her slightly off her feet, she wrapped her arms around his neck and held on. They stumbled into her apartment, mouths fused, hands exploring. Minjun kicked the door closed behind them without breaking contact. Serena's back hit the wall gently, his body pressing against hers in ways that made her forget every reason this was dangerous. Tell me to stop, he breathed against her neck. Tell me this is too fast and I'll slow down. Don't stop. Her fingers tangled in his hair. Please don't stop. What followed happened in fragments. clothes falling away, skin against skin, whispered words in Korean and English. His hands everywhere, worshipping her like she was sacred, her body responding in ways she'd forgotten were possible. The overwhelming sensation of being wanted, not just physically but completely, in every way that mattered. When they finally came together, it felt like something clicking into place, like finding home in another person. Minjun was gentle despite the intensity burning in his eyes, moved with her instead of against her, whispered her name like a prayer. Afterward, they lay tangled in her small bed, hearts racing, breathing slowly returning to normal. Serena's head rested on Minjun's chest, listening to his heartbeat. His fingers traced patterns on her bare shoulder. "Stay," she whispered. "Tonight, just stay. I'm not going anywhere." He pressed a kiss to her hair. "Not tonight. Not ever if you'll have me." "That's a big promise." "I don't make promises I can't keep." Minjun shifted to look down at her. "What we just did, that wasn't casual for me." "You're not casual for me, Serena. You're everything." The words should have terrified her. Instead, they settled warm in her chest like coming home. "I don't know how to do this. How to trust someone again. Then we'll figure it out together. One day at a time." His arms tightened around her. "I'll be patient. I'll prove myself. However long it takes." She drifted off in his arms, feeling safer than she had in years. But when she woke in the early morning hours, the bed was empty, cold. Minjun was gone. Panic hit immediately. Of course he left. Of course last night was just physical. Of course she'd been stupid enough to believe a man like him could actually... Her phone buzzed on the nightstand. A text from the number she'd saved. "Had to handle a situation. Didn't want to wake you. Breakfast is in the kitchen. I'll call you later. You're beautiful when you sleep. MJ." Serena's heart settled slightly. She got up, wrapped in a sheet, and found her small kitchen counter covered with food. Coffee still warm in a thermos, fresh pastries from an expensive bakery, fruit cut and arranged, a note in handwriting she was learning to recognize. "You deserve mornings that start with abundance. Get used to it. MJ." Despite herself, she smiled. Maybe this was real. Maybe he meant what he said. Maybe. Her phone rang. Not Minjun. The club. Her manager's voice was tense. "Serena, you need to come in. Now. There's a situation." "What kind of situation?" "Just get here. Quickly." She dressed fast and took a taxi to Eclipse. The club was closed, but the door was unlocked. Inside, she found her manager, security, and someone she didn't recognize. A woman, beautiful, Korean, wearing an expression that radiated cold fury. "This is her?" The woman's voice dripped with disdain. "This is what he's chosen? Who are you?" Serena asked. "Minjung." The woman circled her like a predator. "Minjun's. Let's call me his business partner. We have arrangements, understandings. And you, foreign girl, you're disrupting very expensive plans." "I don't know what you're talking about." Minjung moved closer. Her perfume was expensive, her jewelry even more so. "Minjun and I were supposed to marry, unite our organizations, create the most powerful syndicate in Seoul. Then you appeared, and suddenly he's making reckless decisions, threatening people, acting like a fool over a bartender. That's not my fault. Isn't it?" Minjung's smile was sharp. "You're a distraction, a liability, and in our world, liabilities get eliminated. Is that a threat?" "It's a promise." Minjung pulled out her phone, showed Serena a photo, her younger sister, in London, walking to class. "Do you recognize her? Pretty girl. Would be a shame if something happened to her because her sister couldn't stay in her lane." Serena's blood turned to ice. "Leave her alone, then leave Seoul. Today. Pack your things and go back to London. Forget Minjun. Forget everything. Or your sister learns what happens when foreign girls think they can play in worlds they don't understand." Before Serena could respond, the front doors burst open. Minjun entered like a storm, his expression absolutely murderous. He took in the scene instantly, his eyes landing on Minjung. "What did you do?" His voice was soft, lethal. "Me?" Minjung turned to him with false sweetness. "I just introduced myself to your new pet, explained how things work in the real world." Minjun moved faster than Serena could track. 1 second he was by the door, The next he had Minjung by the throat, pressed against the wall. His voice dropped to a growl. If you ever threaten her or anyone she loves again, our business arrangement ends with your organization destroyed, and you buried so deep no one will remember your name. You wouldn't dare, Minjung gasped. My father, your father is dying. Minjun's grip tightened slightly. Everyone knows it, which means you need me more than I need you. So hear me clearly. Serena is off limits. Her family is off limits. Anyone who touches her answers to me. Are we understood? Minjung nodded frantically. Minjun released her and she crumpled, coughing. He turned to Serena, his expression immediately softening. Come here. Serena wanted to run, wanted to put distance between herself and this world of threats and violence, but her legs carried her forward. Minjun pulled her close, one arm around her waist. I'm sorry, he said quietly. This is my fault. I should have anticipated this. She threatened my sister. Serena's voice shook. She showed me photos. She knows where Maya lives. Not anymore. Minjun's tone turned hard again. By tomorrow, your sister will have security she doesn't know about. Professionals who'll make sure she's untouchable. I should have done it already. This is insane. Serena pulled back. People are threatening my family because I'm sleeping with you. This is exactly what I was afraid of. I'll fix it. How? She gestured around. Your world is violent and dangerous. People like her think they can threaten anyone who gets in their way. How do you fix that? By making an example. Minjun's eyes were cold. By showing everyone in Seoul what happens when someone threatens what's mine. I'm not a possession to be fought over. No, you're the woman I'm falling for, and that makes you infinitely more valuable. His hand cupped her face. I know this is scary. I know you want to run, but running won't keep you safe. It'll just mean you're alone when the threats come. Stay with me, and I'll make sure no one ever touches you or anyone you love. Serena wanted to believe him, but fear made her voice sharp. How can I trust that? How can I trust any of this when your world keeps proving exactly why I shouldn't? Because despite everything, you feel it too. Minjun's forehead pressed to hers. This thing between us, it's real and terrifying and worth the risk. Tell me I'm wrong. She couldn't. That was the worst part. Even surrounded by violence and threats, even knowing how dangerous his world was, she couldn't deny what she felt. I need space, she said instead. I need to think. Take your time. But know that my protection doesn't have conditions. Whether you're with me or not, you and your sister are safe. That doesn't change. Why would you do that if I'm not? Because I love you. The words dropped between them like a detonation. Even if you walk away, even if you never speak to me again, I love you, Serena. And that means I'll protect you whether you want me to or not. Serena's eyes filled with tears. You can't love me. You barely know me. I know everything that matters. He wiped away the tear that escaped. I know you're brave and strong and worthy of being cherished. I know you make me want to be better than I am. I know that for the first time in my life, I care about someone more than I care about power. That's love. This is happening too fast. Sometimes the best things do. His thumb brushed her cheek. Take your space. Think. But know that I'm not going anywhere. When you're ready, I'll be here. He kissed her forehead gently, then turned and walked out, leaving Serena standing in the empty club with her heart racing and her mind spinning, and the terrible certainty that she'd already fallen too far to climb back out. 3 days passed in agonizing slowness. Serena stayed in her apartment, thinking, processing, trying to logic her way out of feelings that defied logic. Minjun didn't call, didn't text, gave her the space she'd asked for. But evidence of his protection was everywhere. A car followed her when she went out, discreet but present. Her sister called, mentioning a new internship program that came with housing in a secure building. Flowers appeared on Serena's doorstep each morning, with notes that made her heart ache. Day 1 without you feels like years. MJ, saw this and thought of you. Hope you're okay. MJ, still here, still waiting, still loving you. MJ. On the 4th day, her manager called. Serena, you need to see the news. Why? Just turn it on. Trust me. Serena found her laptop and pulled up Korean news sites. Her heart stopped. The headline was everywhere. Kang Min-jun, suspected crime lord, announces retirement from underground operations. The press conference footage showed Min-jun in a suit, facing cameras with his usual composure, but his words were explosive. I'm stepping back from activities that exist in legal gray areas. My legitimate businesses will continue, but I'm done with everything else. Done with violence, done with the underground, done with the life that made me powerful but cost me my humanity. A reporter shouted a question. What prompted this decision? Min-jun's eyes found the camera, looked directly at it like he was speaking to someone specific. Love. Someone showed me that there's more to life than power. That being feared is emptier than being truly seen. So I'm choosing differently. Choosing her. Choosing the possibility of something real. Serena's hands shook as the video continued. Min-jun fielded questions about his businesses, about the transition of power, about what came next. Through it all, he was calm, certain, like he'd made a decision and nothing would change his mind. Her phone rang immediately. Min-jun, did you watch? His voice was quiet. You're insane. She was crying now. You can't just walk away from your entire empire. I can, and I did. The organization will continue under new leadership. My legitimate businesses remain mine. But the violence, the danger, all of it, I'm done. For you, because of you. Min-jun, I meant what I said about loving you. And I realized that asking you to accept my world was asking you to compromise everything you needed to feel safe. So I'm changing my world, making it somewhere you could exist without fear. That's not realistic. You can't just... I already did. The press conference was 3 hours ago. The transition of power is happening now. By tomorrow, I'll just be another businessman with a questionable past and a very expensive legal team. Serena couldn't breathe. Why would you do this? Because a life with you is worth more than an empire without you. His voice roughened. Because you were right. My world was violent and dangerous, so I'm building a new one. One where you can breathe. I don't know what to say. Say you'll give me another chance. Say you'll let me prove that I meant every promise. Say you'll take the risk, because I'm taking the biggest risk of my life right now and I'm terrified you'll still walk away. Serena closed her eyes, saw the man who'd held her through grief, who'd defended her honor, who'd threatened to burn the world for her, who'd just dismantled his entire empire because she'd asked for safety. Where are you? She asked. Home. Cheongdam-dong. Why? Stay there. I'm coming to you. She hung up before he could respond, dressed in the nicest clothes she owned. Called a taxi because she didn't trust herself to navigate the subway with her heart racing like this. The ride across Seoul felt eternal. Min-jun's building was everything she expected. Luxury, security, the kind of wealth that made her shabby apartment seem like a cardboard box. But the guard at the desk knew her name, had been told to expect her, escorted her to the private elevator with a respectful nod. The penthouse opened directly into his living space. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooking Seoul, minimalist furniture, expensive art, and Min-jun, standing by those windows, still in his suit from the press conference. He turned when he heard the elevator, his expression carefully neutral. You came. Serena crossed the space between them, stopped right in front of him, looked up into eyes that held hope and fear in equal measure. You gave up everything, she said. Not everything, just the parts that were killing me. His hand lifted slowly, giving her time to retreat, cupped her face when she didn't. The important things are still here, still possible. This is insane, probably. His thumb brushed her cheekbone. But loving you was always going to be insane. You made that clear from the start. I'm terrified. Me too. But Min-jun's other hand found her waist, pulled her closer. I'd rather be terrified with you than safe without you. Serena's hands fisted in his jacket. If this goes wrong, then we'll have tried. But Serena, look at me. His voice dropped. I need you to know something. The moment you walked into my club and looked at me like I was nobody, you became somebody to me, the only somebody who mattered. Everything I've done since then, every choice, it's been moving toward this moment, toward you choosing me back. What if I can't be what you need? You already are. Just by existing, just by being brave enough to show up here, just by looking at me like I'm worth the risk. His forehead touched hers. I love you. I love your strength and your walls and the way you've survived everything that tried to break you. I love that you challenged me, changed me, made me want to be worthy of you. Tears streamed down her face. I love you too. God help me. I love you so much it terrifies me. Then stop being terrified and kiss me. She did. Rose on her toes and kissed him like it was the answer to every question. Minjun's arms came around her, lifting her completely off the ground. They stumbled toward the bedroom, shedding clothes and inhibitions. This time was different. No fear, no uncertainty, just two people choosing each other completely. When they came together, it felt like everything clicking into perfect alignment. Serena surrendered to the sensations, to the overwhelming rightness of being wanted this intensely. Minjun whispered promises against her skin in Korean and English, loved her with a tenderness that made her cry, held her after like she was precious beyond measure. In the quiet aftermath, wrapped in sheets that cost more than her rent, Serena traced patterns on his chest. What happens now? Now we build something new. Together. Minjun's fingers combed through her hair. I want you to move in here. Want to wake up next to you every morning. Want to prove every day that choosing me was the right decision. That's moving fast. We can go slower if you need. But Serena, I'm done wasting time. Done pretending I can exist without you. His arms tightened. Marry me. Her breath caught. What? Marry me? He shifted to look at her directly. I know it's insane. I know we've known each other barely a month, but I've never been more certain of anything. You're it for me, the only woman I'll ever want. So marry me. Let me spend the rest of my life proving that walking away from everything else was worth it because it led me to you. Serena's heart hammered. This is crazy. Say yes anyway. She should have said no, should have demanded more time, more certainty. Instead, she heard herself whisper, yes, 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 you impossible man. Yes, I'll marry you. Yes, I'll move in. Yes to all of it. Her voice broke. Because apparently I'm as insane as you are. Minjun's smile was blinding. He kissed her deeply, then pulled back with mischief in his eyes. Wait here. He disappeared into another room, returning with a small box. Serena's eyes widened. You already had a ring? I've had it for 2 weeks. His thumb brushed over the velvet. Had it made after that first night at your apartment when I realized I'd found something worth more than my entire empire. He opened the box to reveal a ring that made her gasp. Diamond and sapphires arranged in a pattern that somehow honored both Korean and Nigerian design traditions. I had it custom made, wanted something that represented both of us, both our worlds coming together. Minjun took her left hand. Serena John, will you do me the honor of becoming my wife? Yes. She was crying and laughing. Yes, absolutely yes. He slipped the ring on her finger. Perfect fit. Then kissed her again, slower this time, sealing the promise. They spent the rest of the night tangled together, making plans and promises. Serena called her sister, who screamed so loud they both laughed. Minjun made calls arranging for her things to be moved, for her apartment lease to be settled, for everything to transition smoothly. By morning, Serena's entire life had shifted. She woke in Minjun's arms, ring gleaming on her finger, and felt something she hadn't felt in years. Peace. The next months passed in a blur. Minjun was true to his word. He'd stepped back from the criminal empire, focusing instead on legitimate businesses, real estate, restaurants, tech investments, still powerful, still wealthy, but clean, legal, safe. They married quietly. Just her sister, his closest friends, and a small ceremony overlooking Han River. Serena wore white with Nigerian beading. Minjun wore traditional Korean hanbok. They exchanged vows in both English and Korean, binding themselves to each other in every language that mattered. The reception was small but meaningful. Taehyung gave a speech about never seeing his boss happy until Serena appeared. Her sister cried through her toast about finally seeing Serena smile again. Minjun's former associates came, some shocked, others respectful of his new path. When Minjun pulled Serena close for their first dance, he whispered, "No regrets?" "None." She leaned into him. "You? Only that I didn't find you sooner." But his arms tightened. "I'll spend the rest of our lives making up for lost time." 6 months into their marriage, Serena stood in the bathroom of their penthouse, staring at a positive pregnancy test. Her hands shook. She and Minjun hadn't planned this, hadn't explicitly discussed children. But as she stared at those two lines, she felt joy bloom warm in her chest. She found him in his office, working on something for one of his companies. He looked up when she entered, his expression immediately softening. "Everything okay?" Serena held up the test. "We're pregnant." For 3 seconds, Minjun didn't move. Then he was across the room, pulling her into his arms, laughing and crying at the same time. "We're having a baby?" His hand moved to her still flat stomach with infinite gentleness. "We're having a baby." Minjun dropped to his knees, pressed his forehead against her stomach. "Hello in there. This is your father. I don't know how to do this. Don't know how to be what you need, but I promise to learn. Promise to protect you. Promise to love you the way I love your mother. Completely. Forever." Serena's fingers combed through his hair. "You're going to be an amazing father. I'm going to try." He looked up at her. "Thank you. For taking the risk. For choosing me. For giving me a future I didn't know I could have. Thank you for seeing me. For proving that not all powerful men are monsters. For loving me enough to change your entire world." They held each other in the office that overlooked Seoul, the city where they'd met, where everything had changed, where a bartender had looked at a crime lord and seen possibility instead of threat, where a dangerous man had found something worth more than power. 8 months later, Minjun paced the hospital waiting room like a caged animal. Serena had gone into labor 6 hours ago. He'd wanted to be with her, but she'd insisted he wait outside during the actual delivery. Said she didn't want him seeing her like that. He'd argued until her sister had physically pushed him out of the room. When the doctor finally emerged, Minjun nearly tackled him. "Well, congratulations. You have a healthy baby girl. Mother and daughter are both doing beautifully." Minjun's knees almost gave out. A girl, his daughter. He'd hoped, prayed, and now she was real. They let him in minutes later. Serena sat propped up in bed, exhausted and radiant, holding a tiny bundle wrapped in pink. Minjun approached slowly, like he was approaching something sacred. "Come meet your daughter," Serena said softly. He sat carefully on the edge of the bed, looked down at the tiny face peeking from the blankets. She had his eyes, Serena's nose, a perfect blend of both of them. Something in his chest cracked open completely. "She's perfect," he whispered. "You're both perfect. Want to hold her?" Minjun nodded, unable to speak. Serena transferred the baby into his arms with practiced ease. He cradled his daughter close, feeling the weight of her, the warmth, the absolute trust. "Hello, beautiful girl. I'm your father, and I promise you'll never know fear. Never doubt you're loved, never feel anything but safe and cherished." His voice roughened. "I'll protect you with everything I am, give you everything I have, love you more than life itself." The baby yawned, settled against his chest, fell asleep like she'd found exactly where she belonged. "What should we name her?" Serena asked. Minjun looked at his wife, at the woman who'd saved him from himself, who'd given him reasons to be better, who'd made him believe in second chances. "Hope," he smiled. "Her name is Hope, because that's what you gave me. Hope for a future I didn't think I deserved." Hope Minjun Kang. Serena tested the name. "It's perfect." They sat together in the hospital room. New parents, new family, new chapter of a story that started with a bartender who wouldn't be impressed, and a crime lord who'd learned that real power was knowing when to walk away from everything that didn't matter. Minjun looked at his sleeping daughter, at his exhausted wife, at the life they'd built from nothing but risk and trust and impossible love. And for the first time since childhood, he felt complete. "Thank you," he said to Serena, "for all of it, for seeing past what I was to what I could become, for loving me enough to let me prove it, for giving me this." He gestured to their daughter, to the moment, to everything. "Thank you for being worth the risk." Serena leaned her head on his shoulder, for proving that sometimes the most dangerous choice is the right one. Outside the hospital, Seoul continued its endless rhythm. Inside that room, a family began their story. Not perfect, never perfect, but real and earned and absolutely worth every moment of fear it took to get there. And when Hope opened her eyes for the first time and looked at her parents, Minjun knew with absolute certainty that walking away from an empire had been the easiest decision he'd ever made. Because this love, This family, this future, was worth more than all the power in Seoul combined. If you loved this story of dangerous obsession turned devoted love, please like this video, subscribe to K-Fairytales stories for more addictive romance, and share this with someone who believes in second chances. Comment below what you'd do if a powerful man walked away from everything for you. Thank you for watching, and we'll see you in the next story where love conquers fear and danger becomes devotion.